Associate Artistic Director of Moscow Art Theater, is our guest today, Anatoly Smelyansky. So I would like to introduce him here. So Anatoly Smelyansky is a renowned scholar, author of numerous publications. They include Bulgakov and Moscow Art Theater, Russian Theater after Stalin, and so on. A lot of them, tons of publications. They won awards and so on. So Dr. Smelyansky is also a host of TV programs of Russian TV channel Culture, Kultura, and he has been doing it for 15 years, and actually he is recipient of the award, the best art program on TV in Russia. So I would like to welcome Dr. Smelyansky, and he will start from here.
When in the morning I was in Boston, in the Logan airport, I bought a new couch. I'm like an idiot, I like it. And this is the Brookstone, you know. And this is a stylus in which you can write everything, and then you can just push that button and it erases automatically, forever. So I just wrote a few lines what I'm going to speak, and I put it in my case, but half of the text is erased. So I'm not sure that I know what I'm going to speak. Okay, I know. The talk is named Russia in the Mirror of Contemporary Theater, Russian Theater, or just opposite, Russian Theater in the Mirror of Russia. And it's a general talk, of course. I could not go into details or concrete Russian theaters and plays because I'm not sure that all of you have a background for that. But the general situation, country in a mirror of theater, which is, it looks for me kind of an important issue because theater is one of the best mirrors. Yes, theater could be a crooked mirror, of course. And sometimes I'm not sure that Russian theater is a real mirror for what is going on in a country. But actually, if the relationship between theater and country is natural, if there is no censorship, which is the case now, at least for now, because in Russia you cannot speak, you know, for a long time. It's like, it's for today. It's not good for tomorrow morning, I'm not sure. But for today, we are talking for today. It's a natural relationship. Natural means not good, just natural means organic. There is no censorship, that there is a free will of theater artists to do what they want to do. There is any intervention of the state into the theater business, and there is a free press, which is free to criticize and to kill theater, which they are doing with a great pleasure, as you know, in every country. If you have the organic relationship between theater and your country, theater is a mirror. First of all, I would like, so my plan is to talk about 30-40 minutes and then to have a time for, as you say, Q&A. And some of the students I know have 5 o'clock to leave the space, so I will try to be in the format of that time. So, first of all, I would like to underline that the state of theater is very different now from what was it in the Soviet Union, and don't consider Russian theater, Russian situation like a Soviet situation. It's a post-Soviet situation. 20 years after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And first of all, because I'm from actually Soviet time, I came to the Moscow Art Theater in 1980, in a deeply Soviet time, end of the Soviet Empire in few years. The Soviet leaders are visiting Moscow Art Theater because Moscow Art Theater is not just a mirror, it's display of the empire. Mirror is a mirror, and display is like in a fancy store. You know, it should be like the best place, the best actors, the best directors, the biggest company. You had 160 actors on the payroll for the whole year, which is not American situation. And you even don't know what does it mean, such a theater system, which we still have today, by the way. We had in the Soviet Union, before the breakup of the Soviet Union, we had 700 state-subsidized theater. Because theater, you should know that, replaced in many ways Russian church for the Soviet ideologies, because they ruined the Russian churches, and they decided, and actually Lenin was one of his great ideas, devilish but great ideas, what should replace church for the Soviet citizens, because every big country, and Soviet Union was the biggest country of the world, they needed some kind of cement to keep the congregation together. And if you don't have church, what should keep them? Us. Probably theater is the best, like church actually. Semi-darkness, the priests are here, and the play is good, sucked with Soviet ideas, and we are brainwashing you every day, 365 days in a year, and the state pays for that. Great. And actually, if you can see now from Google Earth, all of the big Russian cities, you will see in every town of the country, in every mid-sized town of the country, definitely you would have 4, 5, 6 theaters built up in the Soviet time. And the best places, the best square, I would say the topography of the Soviet theaters is very important, where theater locates. Of course, theater mostly locates in the best part of the town, in the downtown, but not just in the downtown. Because in the Soviet time, it was a special game of the places. The most important place is, Red Square, Kremlin. Next to Kremlin, Cathedral. Next to Cathedral, a building of the propaganda. And then theater. Next to that building of propaganda. In the Soviet time, shortly speaking, because I don't want to go back. Actually, I don't want to go back. They forced us to go back, but I don't want to go back. What was theater in the old time, if I will make it shortly, the image of that? From some point of view, from probably American point of view, theater was not good because it was a censorship over there. It was a severe censorship which censored everything. I came to the Moscow Art Theater in that time, and I dealt with Ministry of Culture, and head of the Minister of Culture of that time is member of Politburo. Member of Politburo is like next to God. And Brezhnev is in charge of the country, who had a paralyzed, mouth and all kind of that. And they visited us sometimes when we did the show about Lenin or about revolution or something like that. What was good in that? It was something good. In the Soviet system, when everything is suppressed and repressed, and every step is monitored by state, by agencies, by KGB, by what have you, theater was actually one of the very few, or the only place, to get Russians together, to experience something. And doesn't matter what kind of regime you have. If you acknowledge this, and Soviet regime, since 1930s, not in the 20s, but in the 1930s, Stalin, it was probably his wrong decision. He decided to print again, to publish the Russian classics. It was a mistake of him. If you have a country like Soviet Union after the revolution, don't publish Chekhov. Don't publish Dostoevsky. Don't publish Leo Tolstoy. Don't publish Pushkin, Gogol, Turgenev, what have you. Because if you have free access to Pushkin, to Dostoevsky, and to Chekhov, how can you stand the Soviet regime? By the way, Gorbachev, who became, when he came to power, one of the, of course, theater goers to the Moscow Art Theater, and finally, when he was resigned, of course, when he was out of power, became a close friend of the Moscow Art Theater, and we had a lot, and I had a lot of opportunities to talk. One of the first talk when Gorbachev said, the mistake of Stalin was to allow Chekhov and Dostoevsky to be published. If people are aware of Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, Soviet system could not exist. This is his simple and probably very good idea. But when you have Chekhov and Dostoevsky in the Soviet Union, and as you know, Chekhov and Dostoevsky and Tolstoy were staged, it means what? It means that theater is the only place, if you don't have a church and Bible, the super book, go to see Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. Go to see Brothers Karamazovs. Go to see Crime and Punishment. Go to see the Three Sisters or Cherry Orchard. You will get Bible in some way. Chekhov was not religious, which is important, by the way. We had Tlie, so Tolstoy, who is real Christian and religious, and Chekhov, who is completely out of that, which is very important in a culture to have that, frame. It means that in the Soviet time, which I would like to underline because this is the main difference, theater was not just theater, the theater. Because the only one place to go, the only one place to experience together what is going on in the country. Doesn't matter you play classics or contemporary plays. Contemporary plays, often, most of the contemporary Soviet plays were horrible and they were just designed for the propaganda. They paid for that. But theater is not a play. I know that in America you often you say, I saw the play. In Russia, not play. It's a performance. It's a show. It's actors and directors. And they have autonomy. Even the play is horrible. Even the play is disgusting. You can do something. Be sure. I remember when after the Gorbachev came to power, he announced, as you know, freedom of speech, which was the first step, which was probably his mistake, but he announced freedom of speech. It was enough 2 years to destroy Soviet Union because of the freedom of speech. Not of economy, not just freedom of speech. Speak up. That's it. In 2 years, there is no Soviet Union. That's the danger. It's why China keeps, the internet and everything, because 2 years of freedom of speech. Again, I'm not a judge. What does it mean for the world? Would you like to have China absolutely free now? They would like to have Russians completely free. It's quite dangerous when Russians are absolutely free because they don't understand what does it mean real freedom. There is no responsibility. So when the theater not a theater but the theater, it means that this is like one window in a whole house. There is a joke of, I will then come to another joke which I forgot to tell you. There is a joke of a Russian satirist writer, very beautiful. His name is Mikhail Zhvanetsky, very popular Russian stand-up comedian, great writer. And he said, that now in Russian television, the most important thing is rating. They are showing horrible movies, pathological stuff, but rating is so high, people love to see it, and so on and so on. And he said, about rating, in the Soviet Union, it's like I had in my apartment only one small window. You know what kind of rating that window had that time? If you have just one window or leaf window like that, it's a great rating of that one window if the whole house is what. The theater was the only window. And people came to theater and gave to the theater the meaning of super theater. That's the phenomenon of Современник, the contemporary theater in the 60s and 70s, which founded by Oleg Efremov, the guy who invited me to Moscow Art Theater 30 years ago. This is the phenomenon of Yuri Lyubimov there, Taganka Theater. This is the phenomenon of Tavstanogov Theater in Leningrad, of Anatoly Smelyansky, just few theaters. That theater is over. There is no super theater in Russia now. There is no super literature in Russia now. There is no the writer position. There is no the actor position. Just an actor, just a writer. Do your job. Get out of here. a lot of windows. A lot of windows. There is a mass media. Hundreds and hundreds of papers. Nobody reads, but hundreds of papers. Circulation is different. You know, if you in the Soviet time, we had a Pravda, the official Russian Soviet paper. What was the circulation? 20 million copies a day. I don't know what's the circulation of New York Times, probably more. Pravda, what is the circulation now of the most important Russian papers? 20,000, 25,000, 2,000. There is papers, there is magazines, there is internet actually, which replaced all media. Millions of people in Russia using internet every day, and they don't see even the TV set. They don't pay any attention to many arts, including theater. Younger generation, very few of them are coming now. They don't need the only window. They have the window into the internet. Everyone has a email. Everyone has access to the world news. So people in Russia are quite known and quite aware what is going on in a country and in the world. It changes the status of theater, I would say. It diminishes the status of theater from the theater to just a theater, which is good. I don't like to live in a country where the theater is the only window. Good to have hundreds of windows, but of course we have to accept the new situation and to know what we should do. How that contemporary theater reflects the situation of the country. How country is mirrored by the contemporary theater. Look, from many points of view, we can say, and I don't have time for that. If you would like to see in a mirror of theater what is going on with the Russian economy, look what is going on with the Russian theater, with the Russian theater system. It's the same. After 20 years of the breakup of the Soviet Union, we have still the Soviet theater system with small elements of the free society, of the free market. We have now in Russia, you know that we lost half of the territory, half of the population. Ukraine, Belarus, Baltic, and so on, separate states. And most of them, or many of them, are in a horrible relationship to Russia. But I would like to remind you, 12 millions of Russians are living in Ukraine. And in any big capitals of the new established countries, half of the populations are Russians. Dance, problem. So, if you would like to see what is going on in the economy, look at the theater system. We have still now in the Russian Federation about 500 state-subsidized theater. They keep it. That's the side of what is going on with the economy, with many, many, many things which are so used to Americans and to the European countries. There is no still, I would say, free way of. I remember for 20 years, probably few attempts to create private theater. No way. Not because there is a censorship or they don't allow you to create. Please do it. There is no money. There is no private money for culture. There is no private money for the arts because money goes only to the famous people. If you are famous, I will give you money. If you are not, no way. Money go to the Moscow Art Theater, please. But money don't go to the company, to the young director who wants to create his own theater or her own theater. Only few attempts to create private theater. I know one private theater in Moscow. One. Moscow is 10 million of population. It's a megapolis like New York. We have hundreds of theaters. All of them in different ways are funded by the state, by the city, by the local. No way, which is a sign of economy also. Because the country is ruled by the corporations. State corporations. The same in the theater. What is the structure of Russian theater now? Just few words because I don't have time for that. The structure of theater is the same. We don't have production houses, few for the whole country. Production houses mean you can rent, you can bring the show. No. There is a company out of 25, 30, 40, 50, 95 actors. Moscow Art Theater has now 95 actors. And we have our house, and we will have it forever. If someone else wants to replace you, no way. If someone will replace the artistic director of the Moscow Art, I'm taking example of Moscow Art, not to offend the other companies. If someone wants to replace me, no way. Good. If someone will replace another artistic directors of the Moscow theaters, 10 of them are beyond 75. Guys, go out. No. Because we are running our theaters 50 years. What's good in that? This is the system. And still half Soviet or 85% Soviet part of that, and probably few things of the so-called free market and real capitalism. I just read before I left Moscow an article, very nasty, written by about 40 years old critic who feels himself as very young. And he decided to ruin the great Russian theater generals, as he called them, theater generals. So young people are hiding into their basements and somewhere in the corridors, but the generals of theater are running, still running, and so on. And what they are waiting for? They are waiting when nature will do the natural job. So when they die. That's the situation. What they're waiting for? They're waiting for the nature will makes its job. In some way, it's true, but nasty because they are not guilty. Those 75 years, some of them are the most talented, the most gifted people, like Pyotr Fomenko, who is 77, like Oleg Tabakov, who is writing an actor, comedian actor, the most renowned, nationally renowned comedian actor, who runs Moscow Art Theater. Then, you can consider theater as a mirror of Russian politics. I'm not going to discuss it, but interesting fact, if you look at the whole repertoire of the Moscow theaters, we have about hundreds every night. There is no political play, or real political play. There is no credentials for political play, not in a way that, like in the Soviet time, they forced us to do the play about revolution or Lenin. Nobody forced now to do it, but we have a free will to do any play, but there is no great political play, there is no great social plays about what is going on in the country. Just a few days ago, Moscow, Tabakov's theater, he had his artistic director of the Moscow, he has his own small theater called Tabakerka. And they did and played in the black box of the Moscow Art Theater. A show, full Russian internet, Runet, full of the reviews and comments and so on about the play called About Zero, Около нуля, About Zero. It's a play in adaptation of a novel written, it's mysterious stuff, written, as people say, by one of the guys who in Kremlin is in charge of the new Russian ideology. Около нуля, About Zero. It's about temperature. Zero means, in Russia, zero means nothing, and null, and zero means temperature is like. And the guy who is in charge of the Russian ideology, who criticized by all of the Russian opposition and by American, even State Department, he is the writer, he is the author. It's unbelievable because, unbelievable that the guy of that level is writing the novel. Brezhnev also published some memoirs. In the Soviet time, he published trilogy like War and Peace about his experience of the war. But as you understand, he never could, write down a word. And it was a collective of writers who writing instead of him. And it was a joke in the Soviet Union then when the trilogy came out and Brezhnev asked one of his advisors, did you read my first piece, the first piece of mine? Yes. And how is it? It's great. It's better than Turgenev. Oh, good. And did you read, another guy, my second part of my trilogy? Yes. What's your opinion? You know what? After Gogol, I've never read such a beautiful piece. Did you read my third part about my, when I was a general in the war? Yes, I read it. But better than War and Peace. Then the line of Brezhnev. I should read it myself. So, Mr. Surkov, who is the author of that novel, Около нуля, About Zero, he never proclaimed that he is the author. That's the mysterious stuff. He is playing with the audience, with the whole country, that he is not an author. And Tabakov's theater, and one of the most talented young directors of the new generation, Kirill Serebrennikov, he staged it and he adapted it. And this is the hit of the last few weeks, but probably it would be a hit of the whole season. The first political, not political play, but the play adapted the novel of the high politician who is in charge of the new Russian ideology. The response of the most of the critics is very critical, because the very point that someone is adapting the novel of Mr. Suslov, Suslov was in charge of the Soviet ideology, the kind of a cardinal, you know, one of the most horrible and threatening men of the Soviet Union. Second guy in the hierarchy of the Soviet Union. Could you imagine that someone in the Soviet time will adapt Suslov, you know, novel? First of all, you could not imagine that Suslov will write it, but someone is adapting that for the theater. I remember when Brezhnev wrote, when it was published, Oleg Yefremov, a friend of mine, and father of the Sovremenic Theater, and district director of the Moscow Art Theater, the Minister of Culture called him to come to the Ministry of Culture to talk about a very important point. And there is a story from Oleg. It's a personal story. I never discussed it, by the way, publicly. And the Minister of Culture asked him, Oleg, you know that there is a trilogy of Comrade Brezhnev? Yes. Probably it would be good to adapt it for the Moscow Art Theater stage. Hmm? That's the crossroad of any Russian-Soviet intellectual. What you should do. If you say no, it means you're out of life. Out of job first. Not out of life, but out of job. If you say yes, you are out of, morally out of life. Nobody will shake your hand. In a narrow circle of Russian liberal intelligentsia, which is the same everywhere. Get out of here. Ostracism immediately. What was the answer of that brave man who was one of the most renowned actors of the country, alcoholic, real Russian type of, you know. He said, yes, I'm ready. But, what but? There is no play. Comrade Brezhnev should create a play. Of course, they understand what doesn't mean the answer, but they couldn't say, do a play, and then I will stage it. Another guy, by the way, did it, adaptation of Brezhnev at Mali Theater, which is a national theater, imperial theater. And that guy, the director who died years ago, was a beautiful man, great expert in ballet and critic and so on and so on. And he decided to adapt Mr. Brezhnev play at Mali Theater because he wants to leave. And when he did it, I have not seen it, but the rumor was in Moscow among the liberals, with a sigh, Boris Lvov-Anokhin did it. And you know, he was very intelligent in that attempt. He did it like he found a way to do it without shame. No way to do it without shame. The problem with about the Zero is what? The avant-garde director did understand who did the novel, and he did understand that it would be shameful for him. But his idea was, I don't care about what you guys would say. I'm a director, I'm not a writer. I will adapt it, I will stage it, come to see it, and then we will talk. Because the whole point of the novel is, if you would not know, if you will not know that who is the author, you'll say, this is something anti-Russian, anti-Soviet, you know, what is? This is the strongest criticism of contemporary Russian life ever done by the Kremlin ideologists. Completely corrupted country, shamelessly corrupted, and the main hero of the story is a young kind of a journalist or writer or something who is selling, you know, what's selling? I could not even explain you because it's a very Russian, contemporary Russian stuff, because everything on sale. Are you governor? Okay, what does it mean? Governor is not enough to be, you know, respected in the society. I should be a writer also. How could you should be a writer? You did not graduate, you know, a high school. but I would like to be a writer. Find me someone to write, poetry. I will publish under my name. It's a typical Russian, way of now to get, fame. I can pay $25,000 for a line, because it's Russia, very rich now. That's the playboy. And so on, and so on, and so on. From the bottom to the up of the country are corruption. You will not surprise because you are reading WikiLeaks here. And by the way, it's funny reaction of the Russian officials and actually of the Russian people to the WikiLeaks discoveries. What is new in that? Everybody knows in the country that it's nobody surprised, only American government surprised. But the Russians, we know that. What's the problem? American Ambassador John Byerly reported secretly to the State Department that in Russia is corruption. Ha! I know Mr. Byerly very well. He's a great guy, speaks Russian very well. And after WikiLeaks, I'm very reluctant now to speak to them, because every time when I'm speaking to them, that tomorrow they will publish in WikiLeaks the conversation. Okay, this is the political stuff. Then, but theater is not about economy, about politics. Theater is about face-to-face. Theater is about human situation of the country. What helps? The same thing as it was in the Soviet time, Russian classics. We still fortunately have Chekhov. We have Dostoevsky, and this is forever. You should understand that. Nothing new in the new Russia, because Chekhov described it. And Dostoevsky, yes, the details are new, but the body, the most important things of life are the same. I have an experience, strange experience, but probably it would be more telling than long story because I don't have time. Years ago, I was there in Boston, and people from Goodman Theater in Chicago reached me to review the new translation of the Three Sisters they did. Americans, every time when they're doing Chekhovian play, they do new translation. Usually every graduate student can do it, they think. Chekhov is the most complicated, poetical Russian writer. It's not. And what was the problem? It was translated by, now he's a friend of mine, a professional American playwright who doesn't speak Russian but used literary translation. That time I did not speak English at all. It was beginning of the 90s. I started speaking English when I was 54. I started, comparing line by line, different translations. Actually, it's okay. And I did not feel the difference between it's different translation, but the meaning is the same because everyone wants to translate it correctly. Finally, I got to the line when Colonel Vershinin comes to the Prozorov's house, to the Three Sisters. And they're so happy that that guy is in Moscow, he was in Moscow, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and Masha looked at him and for the first time decided, I will stay for lunch, beginning of the love story, I will stay for lunch. Are you from Moscow? Where I was there? Bam, bam. What is good in Moscow? He said something like that. I was there, but every day I cross the bridge to the barracks, to my soldiers. And when you are alone on the bridge and the dark water is down, it's, chilly stuff. But you have here, I would like to remind you, but you have here beautiful, healthy Russian climate, magnificent river. And Olga, the oldest, who teaches in gymnasium, she answers, no, there is cold and mosquitoes. Everyone here could translate it if no few Russian words. There is cold and mosquitoes. There is no problem. But American translator who did use the literary translation, he got stuck. Contradiction in terms. Chekhov probably did a mistake. Look, because we are running, browsing like that. Try read it slow. We have in Russia a book, Slow Reading, which is the most important thing, slow reading. How could you write that sentence? How could you pronounce that sentence, which is absent? There is cold and mosquitoes. If it's cold, there is no mosquitoes. In Russia, I don't know in America. If there is a mosquitoes, it's not cold, warm. Mosquitoes is a sign that's warming. Ah. And he decided to correct Comrade Chekhov. And finally, the sentence came out under his pen is, very correct. No, there is cold in the winter and mosquitoes in the summer. Probably for some of you, okay, why not? It's more clear than Chekhov. But the whole point of the poetry of Chekhov and the whole point of the Russian classics, which is forever, for you and for us, that all the actually, Vershinin says you have magnificent Russian river and beautiful healthy climate. It's one level of conversation. But she answered not to Vershinin, she answered to herself, to the metaphysical stuff of life. No, there is cold and mosquitoes forever here. I would not apply to Russia forever the cold and mosquitoes, but actually that's the point. In the past and now, I don't know about the future, cold and mosquitoes. It's a metaphysical stuff. That's why the classics are working very well. You know, 6 years ago, we did the Cherry Orchard, by the way, in the Moscow Art Theater. And it was our last piece of work of a genius set designer, David Borovsky, who was probably the most important friend of my life. And then very soon he died. And when he brought the model of the set design for the new Cherry Orchard, we did not stage it for years, I was amazed because it was very strange what he did. You know, Moscow Art Theater main house, which is Stanislavsky's house, has a curtain, which is a special color, as you know, like gray, half green, and some kind of ornament. It's a modern Art Nouveau style of Fyodor Shakhtov, who's the architect of the house. And there's a seagull on the curtain. And he brought a model where he duplicated, made a second curtain of the Moscow Art Theater. When the real curtain is there, what you see on stage, you see the curtain divided in two of the Moscow Art Theater, and which gives you the feeling that Ranevskaya's house is just in the frame of the Moscow Art Theater curtain. Where's the house? You know, everyone would come to the Moscow Art Theater to see Chekhov, Cherry. Where is the Cherry Orchard? There is just Moscow Art Theater curtain destroyed. It was so sharp and so strange, and I did ask him, David, what's the point in that, in the second? And he was, you know, like a philosopher, but not talkative, and kind of philosopher, Jewish philosopher, like the lower lip is like constant, doesn't move, and the upper lip is articulating the stuff. So I don't know. Kind of a Chagall, Mark Chagall, the thing, you know. When I started thinking about, you know, it's 100 years after the Cherry Orchard, I started thinking, if Madame Ranevskaya is from Paris now, will come to Russia, where she will stay? What is the place for her to come back to Russia? And I did understand that there is no place for her, actually, in contemporary Russia. Probably the only place for her is the stage of the Moscow Art Theater, where she was born. And he did it. We are playing the Cherry Orchard 6 years with full houses, and audience didn't understand. What does it mean? That the whole estate of Ranevsky is sold, and they cut the Cherry Orchard, and they killed all of the people of Chekhov, and you know, the best people, you know, that we could not play Chekhov in the 20s. It was not allowed by the Soviet government before Stalin came to the great decision to rehabilitate Russian classics. We could not play the Three Sisters in the Moscow Art Theater. They allowed once during the jubilee of the Moscow Art Theater, the 30th of the Moscow Art, in October of 1928, when the gala and Stalin and the whole gang in a house, and they allowed Stanislavsky first time after the revolution, 10 years, just to play one act of the Three Sisters. And he played Vershinin and got a heart attack on stage. What is the example of the Cherry Orchard? Just to show you how the contemporary theater mirrors the country. Now it's the new, of course, stuff, it's American stuff, fundraising. You cannot make a show in the Moscow Art Theater without some additional funds you can get from the rich Muscovites, oligarchs, and all kinds of those people. So one guy is sponsoring Moscow Art Theater. He's a billionaire, and he bought, which is important to know now, to mention, he bought a few years ago, if some of you were in Moscow, there is the biggest mall in Moscow just across Kremlin called GUM, Главный универмаг Москвы, the main mall of the country, which is a beautiful, enormous, old building, GUM. He bought it. And then hundreds of shops over there. This is his. He gave the money for the cherry orchard. He came to the run-through, to the dress rehearsal. And the artistic director of the Moscow Art, the comedian actor who runs now Moscow Art, Tabakov, was not happy with the show that time. And after the run-through, he said, okay, let's go to my office to discuss it, which is the most important, what you should do with it. He didn't like it. And the oligarch said, can I join you for the discussion? He said, no, you can join us, but there is no opportunity for you to talk. You gave money, that's it. Because yes, money is important, but don't talk and don't intervene. It's an artistic business. Okay, I would be absolutely silent. Just can I sit down or just to hear what he gave about $300,000. Okay, 300. One word for $300,000 is it. He came to the conversation and we started talking, and then in the middle of conversation, he's a very big guy. He was in the chair, and in the middle of conversation, he said, can I say just one sentence? So the artistic director said, okay, do it. I like the show, I like the run-through, and I like all of the actors. The only thing I would advise you a little bit to correct, if you know the play, some of the people know the play very well. There is in the cherry orchard, which is the most important, when Mr. Lopakhin finally bought the cherry orchard together with the estate, and he came drunk and very sad. It started, that monologue of Lopakhin who bought the cherry orchard in the house. And the guy, the oligarch, who's actually not that mad, he said, you know what, I think that this is a mistake of you, Mr. Director, that why Lopakhin is so upset when he bought the cherry orchard, which is the Chekhovian color. He is upset. It's very important that he is upset and he is in a state of devastation. I bought it, I'm happy, but, which is the Chekhovian. Why he's so upset? Look at me. When I bought goo, I was happy. And that time I didn't understand that I am and all of us are in New Russia. Okay, let me stop here. Questions, because I'm afraid that I'm over the limit. Any questions, please? I have a prompter. Look how it erases. Bonk. I did not have royalties from that store. No, you can stop. Please.
Oh, I have a question. So you're talking about there's a lot of emphasis on the classics in Russia, of course, and you said that it's very hard for private-owned theaters. However, I'd like you to speak, if you could, about some of the more abstract theater, or is there an infusion? I know that you said there's some American plays, but is there an uprising, or not an uprising, but is there an increase in more alternative theater, new theater opposed to classics?
Of course, yes. Of course, I was very straightforward, because if you have half an hour to describe the whole life, it's actually difficult. It's like last will, The money go to that person. No details. Look, what is going on? Of course, as a whole, Russian theater is, of course, not only state-subsidized theater. It's a few, very few, but very important, small theaters in the basements, in the corridors, in the attics, and they are playing contemporary Russian political strong play. I will give you some example of that because I don't have enough time. Last year, I was the chair of the national theater festival called the Golden Mask every year festival. I was the chair of the jury. And when you are in such a festival, you have to go to see that. Actually, I agreed to be the chair of the jury just to see the variety of the theaters because I don't have time and so. And I went to their so-called dog theater we have in Moscow, like in internet, dog theater, to see a show called Life is Beautiful, which is the most ironic title. Жизнь прекрасна, life is beautiful. In the underground of a downtown of Moscow, in the basement over there. And I had some prejudice because I hate some of those theaters because, you know, Russia for 20 years did unbelievable way of getting everything you have from the 60s. Russian language is completely changed on stage and in cinema and everywhere. You know, I saw a few days ago from Scotland, the guy did very beautiful show called The Black Watch, you know, about Scotland soldiers in Iraq. It's a beautiful show. What is the language of the soldiers? The language is in every sentence. It's fucking. And if you don't know English, the only word fucking, there is no other language. The same in Russian. And you understand that in the Soviet time, you could not even think about that. It's a sterile Russian language of the 19th century of a noble man. As you know, Russian people, like most of the Americans, are not noble. They speak real language, means. So for 20 years, they did it. And every time when I'm in a theater, especially in that dog theater, basement theater, with that language, it's shocking for me, because I'm old. And I do understand that I'm old and probably I should not go to see it. That's the point. If you don't like it, get out of here. That's it. We have beautiful young audience, they love it. I came to see it. What's the plot of the play? Two teenagers, girls about 15, 16 years, having sex with their teachers. And the teachers is the guy who teaches the physical culture. Idiot with the muscles like that. What kind of language they are speaking? Unbelievable, even for me, and I never heard it. And first 5 minutes, and they did it not like a real show, like we are actors playing. They did it like reading, which was very smart because they did not impersonate it fully into the characters, because I could not imagine young intelligent actress to play that girl. But she just, I'm like pretending I'm playing. And the whole 5 minutes, I was like, they told me then after the show that the guys, you were sitting, I'm chair of the jury, you know, and they are looking at me. And I was sitting like that. Because it's shocking. It's like you cannot, you know, using that language just in the face, and they are sitting like me in that small space. After 5 minutes, I started getting understanding what is going on. It's actually one of the most beautiful new mirror. You know, language is the greatest mirror of everything. Language is about everything. If you have new Russia, you will have new language. If you have new America, you will have new language. And language is like a great river, takes and takes and takes and reflects what is going on. What is going on? After 5 minutes of watching that, Life is Beautiful, I started getting meaning of what is going on with the Russian language, because it was written so skillfully that, you know, the point is, why the official language and language of curses and language of obscenities. What's the difference? Because it's a national language, both of them. If you don't allow the obscenities to intervene, means you see, it's a censorship. You cannot explain what people are thinking, because very often, most of the people in the world, they cannot explain themselves. And the only way to explain themselves is to use that language. When someone says, fucking, and there are no words, you understand his emotion at least, that he hated. I saw Julia Roberts in the recent movie when I was in the play. You know, she plays a woman who is not satisfied with her life. She went to Italy. You know the play, the movie. And the Italian said, you know, the most important in Italy is language, but not language, but our gesticulation. Because in Italy, every sentence we are accompanying with a gesture. And you should understand the gesture to know that Italy, what is Italy means. When someone hurt you or pushed you or did something wrong, Italians say, means fuck you. And you should understand, you should read the language. The same in Russian. And when I started listening to the play and what they are doing, finally it turns out that few beautiful, beautiful actresses, about 22, and 2 actors who are playing that idiots, you know, the teachers, in hour and a half, using that language out of 3-4 words, you know. That's it. Out of 3-4 words, they did derivate, they did get the whole picture of life. Which is, you know, of course it's not Chekhovian language, but it's the same. Cold and mosquitoes, I would say, if I am clear.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Stanislavski and the method of Stanislavski's acting still form the basis of training for actors in Russia today?
Officially, yes, of course, because we don't have another method. You know the rating of Small Window? The rating of Stanislavski is unbelievable, but I'm not joking, because I'm editor-in-chief of the collected works of Stanislavski. Don't, you know, take my words humoristically. Yes, of course, but no, because every teacher has his own approach to understand Stanislavski and to use him. In a theater, in a world of theater, you should know that it's a special psychology of the actors and the teachers. Nothing you can get from the books. Stanislavski is a book for many of the students, for many of the actors. But in a theater, the actors are, everything they are getting from the experience, from the practice. And Stanislavski comes a little bit later. They are getting the knowledge of Stanislavski from the hands of great teachers or some disciples of Stanislavski and so on and so on. It's not about book, it's about some kind of craft, not the word, some kind of spiritual understanding about, you know, Stanislavski was very religious, by the way. You should understand that he converted his religious ideas into his understanding of theater, which is very important. Chekhov was not religious. They did not believe in many places, because Stanislavski did not understand some of the things. Chekhov was, you know, in philosophically probably much higher than Stanislavski. But in reality, Stanislavski did have that understanding of theater, like, let me tell you one short story. He was teaching during the Civil War at Bolshoi Theater just to get some food. The price was the food. And one of the actresses wrote down all of his lectures. She had that skills for, how you call it, short stenography. And that's why we have that book, which is better than any other Stanislavski book, and he wrote himself. It's his real voice. And one of their students, like you, asked him in the 1920, Konstantin Sergeyevich, could you make a formula shortly, say, what kind of theater you really love? And he was a very serious guy. God. And he said, I don't know, probably a few words would be important to describe the theater I really love. Higher, simpler, lighter, and more joyful. And look, it's not just random words. This is something important. Higher and simpler is heaven and earth. And between them, in that frame, lighter and more joyful. I love the formula, and when you're in Moscow, if you come to the stage door of the Moscow Art Theater, there is a big picture of Stanislavski and Nemirovich Danchenko, co-founder of the Moscow Art. And there is a phrase which I gave them, just in the stage door in the downtown of Moscow. And people don't understand what does it mean. Lighter, simpler, higher, more joyful. In Russian, легче, выше, проще и веселее. And this is now at the stage door of the Moscow Art Theater, and I love every day when I'm passing the station. That's about Stanislavski. Okay. please.
The new Russia that you're speaking of, the more capitalist, I guess, way of looking at things, is that starting to be translated into Chekhov's plays? In other words, are there people doing Chekhov in that kind of new outlook, or are they kind
Completely new outlook of Chekhov in contemporary Russian theater. You would not recognize it in Chekhov. Could you imagine Cherry Orchard in the frame of Moscow Art Theater curtain? Could you imagine a play called Ivanov in a forest, just or like Ivanov takes place on the, it's an aircraft, bombed, or desert, catastrophe. And there is a Russian hero of the 19th century who is wailing and complaining and blah, 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 and kills himself 10 times in a play. Actually, in Chekhov's play, in Chekhovian play, he kills himself at the end. And what the guy, the director, which is a freedom, in the Soviet time, he would be shut down immediately. What he decided to do, to make some kind of a deconstruction, he started Ivanov with the end, and it went back down, back to the beginning of the play. And people are saying, what is going on? Actually, we know the finale. And then what he started doing when we saw the run and decided to ruin that because it's a Moscow Art Theater, people would come to, as it's a Chekhovian play, you killed Chekhov. But now, because there is no prison for us, so we decided, let's try. He's right, I don't know, he's a genius. But he decided to clarify his point because he had a concept of that. Because what's the point of play called Ivanov? There is a man who is complaining, it's a Russian intellectual, who is complaining, blah, 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 blah. Why he's complaining 100 years? If you are doing the play now, it's a question. Why that guy is complaining? Because the reason for complaining now in contemporary Russia, he doesn't have at all. 100 years ago, yes, but now you are complaining about he is noble, he is rich, the girls love him. What's the problem? What's the problem? Metaphysical problem, called it mosquitoes. It's a problem for kill yourself. And he decided to start with the finale because we will not discuss that he is going to kill. He killed himself. And then every scene, and he's complaining, at the end of a scene, he's killing himself. At the end of the scene, and after, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, people started laughing. It's a comedy. It's a comedy about Russian intellectual, I'm not talking about American intellectual, who is complaining 100 years and doing nothing. And keep your country. What is the country? Why you? What prevented you to doing anything? I am bad. Weather is bad. Climate is bad. Wife is bad. Kids are horrible. I hate life. I'm going to kill myself. Go. We played it about a season. Then the audience did not come because they could not admit it. But as an artistic step in Chekhovian understanding of Chekhov, it's important. And it's important that we allowed ourselves now, but there is no censorship, we allowed ourselves to say, go. And we did stand hatred of the many members of the audience. They came to the Moscow Art Theater like, this is the academy. This is the sacred war. What they are doing? They are doing the only one thing. They are trying to convert their Moscow Art Theater into the mirror of the country. That's it. Okay.
Could you please say a couple words about your school?
Couple of words. It's Moscow Art Theater School. It's a school. It's a legendary school, and I'm happy to spend many years. And last 12 years, I'm running the school. It's an elite school, very small, 250 people, 3 departments: acting, production department, and producers department, and all of them are together: actors, directors, playwrights, technicians, lighting designers, costume designers together. The school gave to Russia probably more than half all of the great actors. 95% of the members of the Moscow Art Theater Company are postgraduates, including all of the artistic directors of the Moscow Art Theater through the century. Graduates of the school, and we have a lot of American programs. That's why I speak English. Just you it was necessity. We started that business 20 years ago in Cambridge. We started summer school, Stanislavski summer school. Then the same year, we started doing Eugenile semester in Moscow Art School 20 years ago, and we had 4 American students that time. If you know Russia after the breakup of the Soviet Union, it's a catastrophe. You could not get a cup of coffee. Now you can get everything in the world in Moscow. So what happened? Last few fall semesters, which is the O'Neill Center, it's undergraduate students. Last 3 or 4 years, we did have for 3 months in Moscow 45 American students each year, which means unbelievable, which is a sign of New Russia also. Could you imagine 45 American students coming to the Moscow Art Theater School through the whole century? Impossible. You have to have for infrastructure for that. We have a door on Tverskaya Street with Wi-Fi, with a telephone line in every room. I would not tell you because it's better than any American dorm I know. But it's not like I got it. We did it for the last 12 years. And we invested, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to make it like home. You know, in Russian language, again, language. When they say Russian students, a dorm, they have, say, общага. Общага, it's a very insulting word. Actually, official word is общежитие, common house. Перезвоню. It's my daughter from Boston. Общежитие. If you will say общежитие, it means a dorm, or dormitory, to be exact. If dorm in Russian, общага, it's insulting because it looks like and sounds like тюряга, a prison. It's a derivation of that kind of word, тюряга, and we had общага, a real prison over there, with like a set design for Gorky's play, The Lower Depths. That was the dorm 12 years ago. How could Americans live in that? So we started from that side, but we should make equal Russian students and Americans. It's not like the dorm is, part of a dorm is for Russians, ghetto, and part of a dorm is for Americans. Wi-Fi is here. If you know, so Wi-Fi is everywhere. And finally, we have now, we have undergraduate level whole year. We have graduate level, last 13 years. We have a MFA in acting with Harvard, with the Institute for Advanced Theater Training, ART at Harvard University. And I'm happy with that because great students. And last fall, I was amazed with the American undergraduates. Actually, I had a feeling sometimes that undergraduates are a little bit naive, let's say, naive. They don't care, you know. And in my class, theater history class, which I'm teaching Americans, probably for the first time, they are doing the presentations. Every Chekhovian play, we are discussing. And I was amazed. I don't know if it's a selection or just something happened. I know that American education is not the best now, and especially public schools and so on. But people are coming from all over the states, from all over the colleges, and they are talking about Chekhovian plays, which is very difficult, with profound, human, great understanding of and they wake up. They are using expressions like Chekhov's existential sobriety. Was amazing. American undergrad, you know, existential sobriety. So we have every Thanksgiving party, because they are in the fall semester. In the dorm, we have a special place for the social gathering, so we have drink there. So. And I thank them for giving me that, I would say, I never expected to have a second life, a second opportunity to think about Russia and states. It became part of the life now, part of the schedule of the school, part of life of Russian teachers, the best teachers who are teaching them. Part of the life of Russian students, they are together in a dorm. They have love stories and they have everything. And it's also sign of new Russia. Russia and Russians who could not even imagine to go to the States, only immigration. Go, send emails, speak on Skype, love each other. Because in Russia, there is no political correctness, as you know. Country is very wild. And when American students are coming, we have a special instruction for them. If you in the subway don't make eye contact to the Russians. Why? Because if you are smiling, they would understand wrong if the girl is smiling in white. Don't smile. That's a special instruction for the girl. Be serious. But actually, American students and the Russian students in the school, they don't care. They are smiling. And they love life. And okay.
Well, I'd like to, on behalf of Russian Area Studies and Villanova, thank
If you are finishing, I would like to thank you guys for coming, and Lynn and Boris and all of the Russian, it's not department, how we call it, Russian studies, so thank you, because I'm first time in Philadelphia, first time in Villanova. It's a beautiful word, Villanova. I like it.
Well, I would like to thank you. I think I speak for everyone saying it.